Hi, welcome to my sew along for ME2120. This is a dress that features two views, view A, which is the shorter version with the contrast bodice, and view B, which is the longer version with the sleeves. The best part about this pattern is that you can mix and match it. So actually you're going to see in this sew along, I'm making view B with the contrast of view A. So you'll see I have a white bodice with a black sleeve and black skirt. The inspiration behind this dress is twofold. One, I just wanted a comfortable flowy dress for summer with a nice fitted bodice. The other reason why I wanted to design this dress is because I knew I was going to be in the thick of breastfeeding as soon as this pattern released. So I am currently 6 months postpartum. In these photos, I was actually 7 weeks postpartum. But now I am currently 6 months postpartum and I am going back to work and I have to figure out how to wear clothes that are cute and are pumping friendly. So in this video, even though this design is not intended to be just solely for postpartum women, in this video, I'm going to show you a hack where you can insert zippers at this style line in the bodice. So you can see here, I will be showing you how to insert zippers. Now, if you're not in this season of life, you can go ahead and skip all those steps and just attach the skirt to the bodice as normally. But I wanted to do a hack that kind of matches the season of life that I'm in currently. Not to mention, there are no cool patterns that are breastfeeding friendly or patterns that are cute and are double fold, again, for the season of life that I'm in. So ultimately, I wanted to be the own solution to my problem by creating this pattern that not only works for somebody who is in a normal season of life, aka not nursing or postpartum, but this could also act as a great maternity dress. It can go through your whole pregnancy, or it's just cute, not in that season of life, like I said. So it's an all-around winner for whatever season of life you're in. It's hard because I don't want to get pigeonholed and say, oh, this design is Alisha's maternity design. No, again, it's for everybody, but I wanted to show this hack because it's a really big emphasis of what I'm going through right now. And I want my designs to reflect and be inspired by my current life status. So that's what the hack is. Again, if this hack is not applicable to you, just skip that step and move forward and progress with the rest of the video. Let's get to it. With a close-up view, this pattern comes in two views. View A, which is the shorter version with the contrast bodice, and view B, which is the longer version with the sleeves. The best part about this pattern is that there are only 6 pattern pieces, so it is a very simple sew and comes together quickly. Suggested fabrics include charmeuse, crepe de chine, double georgette, and silky types. For this sew along, I am using a crepe. You will also need one invisible 14-inch zipper. If you are doing the nursing hack, then you need to also buy 2 10-inch invisible zippers. This pattern comes in sizes 8 to 26. Here you can find the body measurements and finished garment measurements to see what size you are. Pattern piece number 1 is the bodice front for view A and B. Cut 2 for contrast, 2 for main fabric, and 2 for lining. Pattern piece number 2 is the bodice back for view A and B. Cut 2 for contrast, 2 in your main fabric, and 2 in lining depending on the view. Pattern piece number 3 is the skirt front for both A and B. You're going to cut 1 on the fold line. With this pattern piece, you can cut here at view A and down below for view B, or if you don't like either of those lengths and you want to keep it knee length, you can cut somewhere in between. Pattern piece number 4 is the skirt back for both view A and B. You're also going to cut 1 on fold and the length line that you desire. Pattern piece number 5 is the pocket for both view A and B. Cut 2 in your main fabric, 2 in your lining. I chose to cut all 4 in my main fabric for this pattern. And pattern piece number 6, which is the sleeve for view B, cut 2 in your main fabric. Before we get started, it's important to transfer all markings onto our pattern pieces, especially for the bodice. These are our markings for pattern piece number 1, which are our front markings for our center front seam, which we will sew together. Be sure to mark both your lining and main fabric. With the right sides together, stitch bodice front pieces 1 at center front seams between the large and small dots. Remember to backstitch at both dots. Go ahead and stitch the bodice lining in the same manner between the 2 dots. When you're finished, this is what the front bodice piece and the lining bodice front piece should look like, just stitched together between the 2 dots, nowhere else. Next, we are going to take the bodice front to the bodice back, which are pattern piece 2, and stitch 5/8 inch seam allowance at the shoulder seams. When your seams are finished, they should look like this. Next, we are going to move to attaching the side seams. On the left side, we're going to sew just right above the large dot, stopping at the dot with the back stitch. And on the right side, we are going to sew all the way down. The left side is going to be where we eventually insert our zipper. We are then going to complete the lining of the front bodice in the same manner. So we'll attach the shoulders, 5/8 of an inch seam line. We will move to the right side of the bodice, sewing and stopping at that dot, and then to the right side of the bodice, we're going to sew all the way down. With right sides together, we are going to pin the lining to the bodice, where we will stitch the neck edge starting at the upper small dot in the back. So there are 2 dots in the back. We want to start at the upper dot of the 2 dots. And then we're going to break and reinforce the stitching at the small dot in our front bodice. So go ahead and attach the front lining to the front main and pin all the way around and stitch at 5/8 inch seam allowance. After we stitch the lining and the bodice together, then we will understitch. I have pushed my seam allowance to the lining side, and now I am making a stitch line along the edge of the lining side and bodice all the way as far as I can, and then I'll back stitch, and then I'll pick it back up on the other side on the front bodice to complete the understitch on the other side. Once you finish the understitch, go ahead and press, and we'll return. Once we finish with the understitch, we'll move on to the armholes. I've already pinned them. Go ahead and create a basting stitch along both of the armholes so that the main fabric and the lining stay together easily when we attach the sleeves. Once you're finished basting, it should look like this on both sides of your armholes. Next, we will attach the back pieces together at the 2 dots so that we can close it up. When you're finished attaching, it will look just like the front pieces. It'll be connected between the two dots with the bottom still open. Next, we are going to turn in 5/8 inch seam allowance on the lower edge of the bodice lining. I like to do this by creating a guideline at 5/8 inch seam allowance. This is not a step in the instructions, but I like to do this to just make sure it's 5/8 all the way around. Go ahead and press and turn it up. Next, we are going to take pattern piece 6, which are our sleeves, and we are going to gather the upper edge of the sleeve between the notches. Before completing this step, remember to change your stitch length to the longest stitch length on your settings so that you can create great gathers. At this point, we will also be attaching the sleeve seams together. I went ahead and clean finished the inside of my sleeves. I also like to clean finish around the edge of my sleeve before I hem it. That way I know it's going to be a narrow hem and it's going to be 3/8 around, all the way around, and I don't have to worry about that measurement. Also, this fabric was very snaggable, is the only word I can describe it, and it came apart very easily, so that's why I also chose to clean finish. Next, pull your gathers together to create that poof, which we will then be attaching to the bodice of our dress. Next, we're going to take pattern piece 3, which is our skirt front, and take only one of our pockets, which is pattern piece 5, and we are going to attach it to the right front of our skirt. So if you held this pattern piece up to your body, it would be the right side. We're going to attach the pocket on that right side, matching all notches, and then we are going to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way down. Once you've attached the right front pocket, go ahead and put an understitch on the pocket lining. So go ahead and push that seam allowance towards the pocket. We are going to repeat this process, but now we are going to use the back skirt, which is pattern piece 4, and attach one of the pockets to the right side at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now that we've completed that to both our front and back skirt, we are going to take the two of them and place them on top of one another to attach the pockets together. As you can see, I'm placing 2 pins where the dots should be between the pockets. You are going to sew to each of these places with the pin and create a back stitch in order to create an opening for the pocket. Assembly for the left pocket is a bit different than the right pocket. We are going to take the right front again and attach the pocket to the left front skirt, matching the large dots and leaving the raw edges even. We are going to stitch in between the large dots. You can't really see the dots on my dark fabric, so I'm placing pins in the place of where those dots would be. I'm going to sew between the dots only, not above the dots, not below the dots, just between the dots. Don't forget to pivot at the large dots like I did. I'm having to go back and sew them from the side seam to the dot. We are then going to clip to the stitching at the large dots once you finish sewing. Once you're finished, it should look like this, a seam line here all the way down, up again. So this should be closed when I open it, and there should be stitching when I open it here. If it looks like this, you've done it correctly. Now we are going to take our scissors and clip 2, but not through to those dots. Once we have completed our clipping, then we're going to turn the pockets to the inside, turning out seam allowances above and below the clips. Then you'll go to the iron and press. When you're finished pressing, it should look like this. Then with right sides together, we're going to pin the remaining pocket section to the pocket front and match the large dots, having raw edges even. We're going to then stitch the pockets together, starting at the upper edge. After stitching the pocket together, I went ahead and clean finished my pocket. Then we will flip it so that the right sides are showing. Next, we will baste the pieces together in preparation for attaching the zipper to the side seams. Now we are going to gather the upper edge of the skirt front and back, breaking stitch at the side seams and dots. So go ahead and create gathers because these gathers will be shown when we attach them to our bodice. Remember to choose the largest stitch length in order to create gathers. Now that we have 2 rows of gathers all the way around, we will begin to gather for attaching to the bodice. At this point, we are on step 23 in our pattern instructions, where you would go ahead and attach the gathered skirt to the bodice. But because I am doing a hack of this dress and making it nursing friendly, I have got 2 10-inch invisible zippers that I'm going to be attaching to the bodice and the skirt at this point. So if you are not doing a nursing hack, you can go ahead and skip ahead in this video. But for now, I am going to do the nursing hack. Like I mentioned, I am using 10-inch invisible zippers, but you can use 12-inch if that's what you're more comfortable with, even up to 14 inches. This is all that I had on hand at home, so that's why I'm using 10 inches. So I marked on my pattern piece the placement of where I want the zippers to hit. I also intentionally placed my zipper not quite towards the middle, but near the side seam so that the zipper pull could be hidden near my side seam. It wouldn't be visible in the front of my garment. When I was happy with the zipper placement, I went ahead and created notches that would indicate where the zipper would start and stop. I also made sure to notch the actual notch of the fabric piece so that I would also match my skirt pattern pieces. I then transferred those notches onto my fabric so I knew where to place the zipper when I attached my bodice front to my skirt. Now we will resume step 23 in the pattern instructions, where we attach our bodice to our skirt. Remember to match all notches, and then you will even out the gather or distribute the gather between those notches. Attach the bodice to the skirt at 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then go ahead and clean finish. If you are doing the nursing hack, you'll notice that I did not clean finish the bodice and the skirt together, but I clean finished them separately. Then you will grab your zipper and you will do the normal things that you do to an invisible zipper, like pressing the coils open. If you are not completing the nursing hack, you can go ahead and jump forward to step 24 in the instructions, or speed ahead to the video when we get to that step. For now, we're doing the nursing hack. I've transferred all of the notches of where I'd like to place my zipper, and as you can see, I'm laying my skirt down on the table with my lining open so that I can see this seam where I'm going to insert the zipper. This hack is pretty easy. All I'm going to do is lay the zipper face down onto the garment, and the zipper is going to be closed. I'm going to stay stitch each side of the zipper to each side of that seam allowance that's open. Remember, I'm going to put my zipper tail towards the side seam so I don't see the zipper when I am wearing the garment on the outside. So again, pin or stay stitch that zipper to each side of the seam allowance. I'm going to attach the zipper using pins, but you can do needle and thread and just do a quick little stay stitch so that the zipper stays in place. Really, we just want to get the zipper tacked down so that when we open this seam, the zipper is then exposed, and then we will take our invisible zipper foot and clean it up and make it beautiful. But for right now, we're just sort of basting it onto the seam line, placing the center of the zipper in the center of the seam of the bodice and the skirt. Again, at this point, we are just creating a simple basting stitch. So I'm not really worried about getting to the closest the zipper as possible. I'm just worried about attaching it to the fabric, that seam line. I have everything pressed down except for that seam allowance and the zipper that I'm working on. Everything else is pushed under, so the only thing that's getting attached is that seam allowance to the one side of the zipper. Then I'm going to flip it over with the other seam allowance and other side of the zipper, and again baste it on that side. Once it's basted in, we're going to turn it up facing the right side, and you can see where I have the marks where the zipper was sewn in. Now I'm going to open up from each spot so that the zipper is exposed. Now I know there are much faster ways to seam rip, but because this fabric had snagged on me quite a bit during this tutorial, I went very low, very slow to make sure that I wouldn't get any more snags. Once it's open, I'm going to go back through, and with the zipper foot, I'm going to stitch very close to the edge so that the zipper will then become truly invisible. Repeat this process to both sides of the zipper. Once you're finished, go ahead and open up the zipper to make sure it is open and functioning perfectly, and then go ahead and repeat this process to the next side of the bodice. Now we are going to jump to the zipper installation for the side seam. So if you didn't do the nursing hack, this is the one zipper that you need for this garment. So you're going to turn under the upper ends of the zipper tape and baste them down. First, we are going to baste down the zipper on the left side. I've already gone ahead and clean finished my skirt in an earlier step that allows for an easier placement of the zipper. So here I am just pinning it onto the skirt. I'm going to baste stitch down, and then I'm going to actually take my zipper foot and get as close to the zipper coils as possible. I then will repeat this step to the other side of my skirt by manipulating my zipper onto the other side. I drew a notch at the side seam so that when I zip up this zipper, the notches will match, which in turn means the side seams will match as well when the zipper is zipped up. Once again, you can pin or baste onto the side before you attach the zipper, and then you're going to go back through with your invisible zipper foot to attach the invisible zipper. We are stopping at the dot. Once we've attached the zipper, we're going to go ahead and finish the rest of the side seam, closing that up at 5/8 inch seam allowance all the way down to the bottom hemline. When you're finished, this is what it should look like. You have that opening for your pocket on the side of that zipper, and then a closed seam line all the way down to the hemline. The last step is to just roll up that hemline into a narrow hemline and hem all the way around. Again, I like to clean finish by serging the edge. This fabric was frayed a lot, so it was easier to just clean finish and roll my hem into a double fold. Actually, the very last step is to attach the lining to the seam lines. However, if you did do the nursing hack like I did, on the part where the zippers are for the nursing hack, you're just going to attach the lining to the upper zipper. If you attach it to both lining, the lining to the skirt, and you attach it to both sides of the zipper, then when you open up your zipper, it's not going to work. So you just want to attach it to the upper lining. This is going to be done with hand tacking, so go ahead and pin all the way around, and then you're going to get your needle and your thread and sit down and watch your favorite show and get to work hand sewing. Here she is in all her glory, the finished look, complete with a baby for demonstration. Again, all I have to do is just open up that zipper and easy access for feeding. Well done, you did it. Please remember to tag me in your creations. I can't wait to see what you do with this, whether you're gonna mix up the contrast, maybe make it a knee length. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it. So please tag me at Miss Alisha Grace on Instagram and TikTok. You can also find me on YouTube at Miss Alisha Grace as well. Until my next design.